Welcome back, everyone, to the EU LCS. A wonderful sunset in Berlin and match point for Splyce in tonight's quarterfinal. Let's hope for Schalke it is not a sunset on their playoffs. Almost nailed that.
Nice.
Ooh, but Schalke, they won the first game, but after that, this series has been turned completely on its head. Splyce bounced back very impressively 2 games in a row. And since we are at match point, possibly for Splyce, we wanted to look at some key matchups. And when we talk about key matchups, we have to look at the mid lane, and we cannot sing Nisqy's praises enough. And their playoff Nisqy is a thing. He is carrying the S out of this series so far.
Yeah, no, he's been doing so fantastically. And keep in mind, it's not on Zoe. We thought he was a Zoe 1 trick, but no, he's played 3 different champions so far in this series. He's looked absolutely fantastic on each and every one of them. The signature Cassiopeia, one of those, of course, and really, it's just been so good because it's not just the laning phase, it's the team fighting, it's the whole package.
Djoko, is this surprising, the fact that this mid lane matchup was really favored in terms of Nukeduck when we came into it, not knowing what Nisqy would pull out?
Yeah, I totally agree with you. Like at first thought, it was like, okay, Nukeduck is strong. Like everybody say that he's insane, and I'm like, okay, he's gonna win for sure. He's gonna be the favorite. And then I see Nisqy doing those plays, and I'm like, all right, I guess Nisqy is in playoff, I guess. So this level is just popping off, and yeah, I'm really surprised by Nisqy performance.
Yeah, I think the duel has gone off so far, and it's gone in Nisqy's favor. And Nukeduck didn't have bad games at all. So what does it come down to then? And I have to look at the jungle. Ender, you said, I have my eye on Xerxe. I want to see this guy do what he does when Splyce wins, and that is put his stamp on the early game and help his mid laner, as that's exactly what he's done.
It's exactly what he's done. The Gragas has looked so good for him in the first game. He's going for very early ganks, making kills happen in the mid lane. In every single game, him and Nukeduck, or he's been able to kill Nukeduck with the help from Nisqy. It's been so good from them at shutting down the best member on the side of Schalke.
We're not talking about any other members but the mid laner and the jungler. Is that the way the series has played out?
Absolutely. There hasn't been anything. You know, Gyotto said that they were trying to play around bottom lane in the last game, and they did. They did what they were supposed to do, but no, it's still Nisqy who runs top lane for a gank, runs immediately bot lane to counter that play, and it's all because he has a lead that Xerxe's helped him out to get.
Well, I do want to bring the team back into this. It is, of course, 5 versus 5, and then I think about the team fights, and Schalke has not managed to win a single team fight yet this series, and you might say, well, what, they've won a game, but even in that one, you could include the skirmish around Baron in the end or before they end the game. But a straight 5-on-5 team fight has not gone in favor of Schalke yet. What's going wrong for Schalke in that department, Djoko?
I think it's most likely coming from the draft. They are like aiming, split pushing with, not with Maokai obviously, but more with the Ryze and the LeBlanc, and they're really playing towards these strengths. And right now it feels like it's not working. Splyce are just picking comps to just fight, and they just group and they kill each other. I'm like, okay, then I think Schalke need to adapt, because right now it's not working for them.
Yeah, and if you look at the play right here, Splyce are actually down almost 5,000-6,000 gold in this game, but they were able to turn it around with a good draft, with fantastic execution.
This is last
again
game
from Nisqy in the mid lane.
Yeah, this is last game, I was just going to say, where this was the cleanest game we've seen of the 3 so far, and it was in Splyce's favor. They pulled the trigger and they kept going. There is really no chance for Schalke to come back at any point in that game.
And they managed to close it out in the mid game. That's all we asked for them.
Yes.
They can get these early game advantages if they have the right picks. It's about extending it, and they did that.
That it is, and Splyce is now on match point, and I want to take a minute just to talk about expectations and momentum for both squads. Let's start with Splyce, because Splyce really could only win today when it comes from the viewers' expectations, from the analysts' expectations. They were the underdog coming into this matchup. Quite clearly, not a lot of people had the trust in them to win. So what they're doing now must mean so many things for their confidence. They come back, they have a horrible loss in game 1. We all want to write off the series and say they're never coming back from this, and they win 2 games in a row. Djoko, this turnaround from Splyce has been wonderful.
Yeah, it's really wonderful to see them. They keep going, even though the first game, like you mentioned, was really terrible, and that's where the strongest team won in BO5, because it's all about mental strength and all about like keep your head fresh for the next game. And right now it seems like it's working for them, and it's amazing.
Yeah, and this is where we have to go to Schalke. The team, when before the match started, we built up. This is their defining moment in possibly their entire careers up until now for Schalke 04. The organization that has tried and tried again and failed finally lived up to their expectations. But this is it. They have to turn the series around, Ender.
Remember that this team could have had a bye, could have not been here, could have been waiting in the semifinals if they hadn't lost to H2K on the last day of the regular season. That loss has now put them in this position, and to lose here would be a total failure for the organization.
Yeah, this is for why I call this a defining moment in their organization. This is where they have to get everything together. They have to make a game plan. So this is where we get into the prediction phase of everything. Key picks across the series. We sat together and looked at a couple of picks that have been instrumental. Ezreal, Gragas, and Ryze. Now, first up, we need to talk about Ezreal because, you know, it's Upset's favorite champion. Why would he not pick it, Ender? Why is he in this key picks lineup?
Because when we get to these late game situations, Ezreal is just not going to have the same output in a team fight as a Kai'Sa or a Vayne is going to be. It's a great champion for Upset, don't get me wrong, but the way these games are panning out, Schalke needs strong team fight presence out of their bottom laner, and they're not getting it with this Ezreal.
Second pick here is the Gragas. We've seen it change sides and be equally successful, I would say, even though Xerxe was really good on it in the last game. Djoko, would you like to see it banned away? Would you like to see it in someone's hands? Or would you like to see an entirely different jungler for each side?
Yeah, I mean, right now we saw that there was like Gragas, Trundle, and I was quite frankly happy to see that amazing pull of the Olaf. And I don't know, it seems like Gragas is safe because he has a stronger early game, mid game, late game, and compared to Olaf, it's full off. So right now it seems really strong since Trundle got nerfed and Sejuani is being permaban right now. So yeah, Gragas looks strong and solid right now.
And finally, the Ryze, it looks like you cannot allow any of these mid laners to have that champion. You should just ban it away. Finally, how does Schalke pull it back? One argument from each of you.
Schalke, they need to be able to slow down the early game, limit playmaking around the mid lane. That's going to come from good warding from Amazing and from VandeR to protect Nukeduck, because I don't think Splyce can actually win if they don't get Nisqy an early lead.
Yeah, I think right now they are trying to play through bots, and it's not working that well because they see last game they had Braum, Olaf, and Ezreal, and they didn't snowball anything. So maybe they should try to go visit another lane, like mid lane, like you said. And yeah, I think it's midnight. Nukeduck is the key right now.
Yep.
Alrighty, let's see what happens. Do or die for Schalke here in Game 4. Let's see if they can stay in the series or if Splyce goes to Madrid.
Thank you very much, Sjokz. So much on the line in this game, and what better way to round out a series than joined by Vedius, and Deficio, I guess?
You can be Deficious.
You can be Deficious.
Whatever, man. Let's talk about Splyce and Schalke.
Let's talk about Splyce and Schalke.
That's definitely good stuff. So we said this in the last game towards the end when we saw how far ahead Nisqy got. Analyst just said the same. Mid lane for Schalke. If they don't put focus around it, Nukeduck is playing 1 versus 2, and he's losing that 1 versus 2 really, really hard. And Nisqy has now shown multiple times, give him an early advantage and he will carry the game. You gotta shut that down.
Now, one thing that Schalke have put a lot of priority on in the first 2 games was denying Ryze away from Splyce. They banned it game 1. No, they first picked it game 1. They banned it game 2. They've left it open in game 3. And we saw what Nisqy was able to do on the champion. Now, coming into game 4, they are on blue side. I would expect them to ban it again. But they have been putting value on things like the Scion, for example, and also things like the Trundle to deny them away from the side of Splyce.
Banning the Scion again, which is very interesting, before they ban Ryze and Akali on this blue side. And I actually think game 2 was when Schalke had the strongest draft compared to what we had on the side of Splyce. It was, as a reminder, if you didn't watch it, where we had the Vayne pick from Kobbe. Splyce couldn't do anything for like 25-30 minutes, and Schalke actually had full control, but they got outplayed in some of the late game fights. If they want to play early game style, they can go for the same kind of setup. The Ryze does not get first picked in this game. It is banned away, but Akali is still open. They're trying to force Splyce to ban it.
Looking towards that Braum and Alistar as well, 2 key picks throughout this tournament.
Akali left open.
And they banned
Akali is open, so, LeBlanc removed.
But I think LeBlanc is one of the best matchups into Akali as well, and Splyce just take it off the board. The fact that they would leave this open, very scary.
They have an answer. They must have an answer.
But we saw this before, Deficio. Remember when they let Aatrox open against Schalke and they said they had an answer? They didn't have an answer.
Let's wait and see what they bring out. I've seen a lot of teams go with something like a Galio against it, not to hard win the lane, but then you can snowball other lanes. But the Akali pick get her to level 6, she can start to carry the game. They gotta make sure Nukeduck is not behind by the time he hits that level 6.
I agree, but I don't think it's necessarily a lane that you need to snowball. It's just one that you, as you rightly said, keep alive. But she's also just naturally very difficult to kill anyway because of her Shroud. We'll see how well the team does at shutting her down.
Do we get the Alistar for VandeR, who's also left open as a trade, potentially for the Braum. Amazing is back on Trundle duty. Not an Olaf this time, so we're not looking at the same kind of forced early game from a jungler, which did not seem to benefit Schalke in the last game.
There is the Alistar for VandeR as well, so jungle, mid, and support locked in. Splyce, a lot of options.
No. Please have something special prepared.
Possibly towards the mid lane, a bunch of opportunities. But
we get something! You know what you can use against someone who's hiding in a donut-shaped shroud? A giant donut-shaped cage!
Cage! Let's go!
On top of her.
So there's, okay, so the reason why I like this so much is that Akali doesn't have any blinks. All of her abilities are dashes, aside perhaps from the second proc on her ultimate. We'll get that confirmed, but basically once that stun cage comes down from Veigar, there is no way for Akali to get out from it. So Splyce's goal is to lock down the assassin and burst her. And if there's one thing we know Veigar is good at, it's one-shot.
But seriously, get everyone in here because we got to witness a first pick Akali for Schalke. It was left open after Splyce banned it so often in this game already. Nukeduck gets to play it in the mid lane, and then Splyce showing a counter pick they prepared, knowing this situation might happen.
And it's Nisqy playing the counter pick, the guy that stepped up for the team throughout this series of 5. We're going to move on to that second ban phase. We will talk a lot more about the Veigar and Akali, I'm sure, when we get into game. Cho'Gath Poppy banned away by Splyce, looking towards those top lane tanks. Schalke actually removing the Ezreal themselves. So we're going to see upset on something different. Kobbe here, going to lock in the Ornn for Odo in the top lane.
All right, so we get the tank top. Kai'Sa now being locked in on the side of Schalke. Their scaling is very scary in this game with Kai'Sa, Alistar, and Akali. You have to remember, Alistar is a great choice against things like a Veigar, who's actually very easy to get onto if you can get out of the big stun. And what can Alistar do? You can all get onto a flash onto the Veigar as well. But Schalke might run a massive front line paired with 2 strong scaling carries.
So I'm gonna talk about this a little bit more, but I just looked at Nisqy's match history. He played Veigar into Akali just 2 days ago.
Abyssal Mask Rush.
We'll have a look at it as we get into the lane, but he knew that this could be a case, and he knew he needed a counter pick. Kai'Sa locked in for Schalke. Maokai as well in the top lane once again, and now we're looking at that final pick for Splyce. He's gonna be down towards that bottom lane, expecting an AD carry. We'll see what they're locking. It's a Kog'Maw as well!
Oh my word.
Oh, if Splyce are going to win this series on this game, they're going out with a bang.
So the one thing we have to say about Splyce is that with all their infrastructure, with the veteran talent on this lineup, you knew that coming into playoffs they were going to be prepared, and they've come in with so many unique picks. They're playing so many different styles. Splyce look so confident coming into game 4.
They also have a coach who's insane in the good way because he's willing to take gambles in drafts. He had the Vayne earlier today. He was the person who gave Aatrox over early in the split when everyone said this champ has to just be perm banned. It was before any of the nerfs hit. He did it anyway. Like, they have prepared so many different things here, and they're pulling them out. Of course, because they're 2-1, they can afford to take some chances. If they lose here, they're still at game 5. But Schalke are looking at a first pick Akali. That's what they wanted, and now they have a lot of big, strong frontline tanks to try and get on to Nisqy.
Let's talk a little bit about win conditions, how these teams are going to play these compositions, because there's a lot of power picks. There's a lot of picks we do not see regularly. What are these teams looking to do?
I think when you see, first of all, the Akali versus the Veigar, you have to look towards that lane. They have to make sure Nukeduck does not get ahead, and that's why they have this pick prepared against it. Xerxe can go to this mid lane as well. Double CC setup can be so effective, and you can wait until you can see the Akali again. But the other thing is, if we go full late game, if it happens, the scaling on both sides is still insanely strong, and it comes down to execution, especially between AD carries.
I think you're so totally right, because I think that Akali to play in these late game fights is going to be really difficult with all that peel on the side of Splyce. But late game team fights really seems to be the name of the game for Splyce. So much engage with the Ornn, so much late game damage with the Kog'Maw and the Veigar. They have the front line engage as well. It's all about team fighting once again for Splyce.
And just think about this combo here. You go towards Nukeduck, either in the early game or late game fight. He uses W, you can't see him. Put the cage down. And what can happen with a Gragas ult? It knocks Akali out of it. You can suddenly see her again, you can nuke her down with an ult from Nisqy. Like, this combination is obviously designed to try and deal with the first pick Akali.
Now, the last time Nisqy played Veigar was last split. He played it one game. He played it into Schalke. His scoreline was 3-0-6, and he popped off. Thank you, Stats team, for providing that, but it was a beautiful game. And now he's doing it again. Game 4, best of 5 versus Schalke. The unique counter pick, Veigar versus Akali.
And if we look at the build that he used in solo queue, Medic, you already highlighted how he played against Akali. He built towards Luden's Echo first, but he had a Catalyst in there before fully completing it, and then he got the Abyssal Mask.
Guys, your vote counts. If you think Schalke are going to make a comeback, take us to Silver Scrapes. Type S04 in chat. If you think Splyce are going to go to the semi-finals for the second split in a row, type SPY in chat. We'll check in with the results on that vote in just a couple of minutes' time.
I'm also so happy we get a tank shredding AD carry back in a now tank meta with a lot of big beefy targets. Almost felt like it was just a matter of time before good old Kog'Maw here would return. So far, it's Splyce's favorite.
Just a tiny bit, just a tad.
They're trusting the draft.
You know what's amazing about this, though? Only one of our analysts voted for Splyce coming into this. Only one person said that Splyce would take the series. It was Law, who has been consistently a Splyce fan. What an change of expectation we have coming into this fourth game of the series.
Like, Splyce finished 9-9 during the regular season. They had it appeared that they had one play style which was stalled a late game, and we didn't know how that would work. Amazing. Level 1 kaSing asserts his dominance and helps jungler Xerxe securing that Scuttle Crab.
I want to highlight something else here. Nisqy's running Predator in this game here.
He is.
So he's actually not just looking for the setup against Nukeduck. Like, if he's able to leave and move, that can also be a very effective way. And that's kind of things like, if you want insane tower dives, how about a guy who AoE CCs into an insane nuke? Like, that's how you get rid of people before the turret even does anything.
And in terms of this matchup, during the laning phase, it shouldn't be too bad for the Akali. One of the things that she often does struggle against is range matchups, because before you get your Shroud and being a melee champion, having a short range means that you do get poked out a lot, but often, if you're the Veigar, your focus is on farming. You want to stack up your Q. You want to last hit those minions, start building up those stacks so that you get towards that late game threat, which means that Nukeduck shouldn't struggle that much in terms of getting close to the wave, being able to farm, and even getting a bit of harass down onto the Veigar.
Looking for a fight down in this bottom lane. The flashes come out. Xerxe here. Exhaust used on upset as well. VandeR with a double knock-up. Can use the headbutt onto Xerxe, but he stops him in his tracks. And VandeR is not in good shape at all. First blood to Kobbe.
Everyone thought it was going on to the Kai'Sa, but instead he swapped it to the Alistar. Right there, VandeR tried to just headbutt onto Xerxe and then get out in time, but that's now an early kill for Splyce. And one thing we haven't talked a lot about is the fact that Schalke are now down a game. They have lost in a terrible way in the last one. They did not look happy between the games here. Sjokz just sat on the stage as the only player once he returned, and now you're already giving up a first blood.
Yeah, momentum swinging heavily in the favor of Splyce coming into game 4. kaSing messed that flash up, did Q into a minion, which means the slow was not applied. Upset flashes out the way, thinking that the flash body slam is going to come out from Xerxe onto him, but no, it goes onto VandeR. He gets chain CC'd long enough that he's not able to flash out, and first blood goes onto the Kog'Maw. I believe it was Double Lift at MSI that said it is impossible to play Kai'Sa into Kog'Maw. Every time you try to go in for a trade, you get outranged, you get out DPS'd, and during the lane, it is one of the most obnoxious matchups to play. And everyone forgot about it. No one ran the matchup, we haven't seen it since MSI, and then coming into this game, Kobbe's brought it out, and so far he's already off to another game.
I mean, a big problem was the games were too fast.
That's true.
You know, like it was almost decided before you got to a point where you really could carry a team fight. But the thing about Kog'Maw is he's strong on one item as well. And see what happens bot lane here. Xerxe's coming again to ruin the day.
kaSing's going to get stunned up. The Upset will be able to get VandeR the kill, but there's the turnaround. Now Upset, no flash on him, remember. Amazing coming in as well. They're trying to turn it back onto Xerxe. Amazing has his flash. If he wants to flash pillar, decides against it for the moment.
While all this is happening, mid lanes, it's just free farm right now. And Akali is actually able to match what's happening. Nukeduck is getting towards his level 6. Obviously does not run TP, so we'll lose a bit here, but no early action towards this lane, which is one we hyped up in Champ Select. Everything is around bottom side.
But I feel like if it's Veigar, it's not really a lane that you can look to play through, largely due to his extremely low damage.
It was more for the hype of the matchup.
Nisqy on the chase here with the Predator. Amazing has to flash out of the cage.
But to tie it back into that mid lane point, as we see Amazing getting chased out, remember we talked about, the thing about Akali is, again, she's also like in the first couple of levels, you can't really do a lot.
Yep.
Once she hits 6 is when you can really start to play around this lane.
She just hit 6 Vedius.
Yes, but the problem is Amazing just used his flash. And so if he tries to gank in mid, the stun comes out from Nisqy, he can then just disengage, and if he gets caught in it, then Splyce can actually go for a counter gank.
We've also consistently seen Splyce heavily focus on vision around Nisqy. Look at the minimap on the bottom side. If you're Nukeduck, you have no clue what's happening down here. There could be a Gragas sitting here for about 2 minutes, waiting for you to jump forward, and then he ganks you. So with the lack of information, it makes it even harder for a champion who is extremely all-in focused.
All comes back to that level 1 kaSing roaming up and making sure his team secured the Scuttle Crab as well. Incredible stuff here from Splyce. They have a game plan coming into this game, as they have for so many playoffs in the past. This is their 5th in a row as an organization.
And they can keep just doing this because they have Kobbe winning on bottom side, which allows kaSing also to move from the bottom lane.
Now, in terms of early Drakes, it looks like the Cloud is the first one, so no Infernal this time around. And whenever Splyce have actually been in major control of the Drakes, they've gotten a lot of Infernals, but having that extra movement speed is mainly what they'll be playing towards in terms of the early game.
There.
Xerxe is hanging around this bot side of the map. He's going in.
That wasn't the time you wanted to go in, but still, look at the damage coming out from Kobbe. He's picked up both the kills in that bottom lane. He's in such a strong spot.
And he's just making sure there's no way for Kobbe to not get ahead right now. Forcing VandeR back to base. Amazing on the top side right now. Nukeduck roaming with him. Odoamne has been basically just farming top lane. No one has actually tried to kill him just yet.
So we have the level 6, the level 7 now on Nukeduck. Amazing is 6 as well. His flash still not up, but you feel like Schalke know they want to play around mid. They know they want to get Nukeduck ahead, and so they're trying to make things happen.
So what's more likely to happen with Nukeduck is he actually tries to roam around the map, because once you get level 9 especially, you get that extra bit of wave clear on your cube, which gives you pressure, and you can then move to look for potential dives. And already we see from Schalke setting up this dive towards the top side of the map.
Xerxe on his way. Odoamne is going to pray to the Forge God, misses it because of the pillar, but this is not a good dive as of yet. Odoamne just going to knock them both up, and Xerxe is here for the chase. Flashes in. Doesn't land the body slam. Schalke have to back away for the moment. Nisqy's on his way. He's popped the Predator. He's waddling towards this. Sjokz dodges out from the cage with the twisted advance. Nukeduck needs to get in the midst of it all. Primordial burst to the back, and Sjokz is down.
And Nisqy gets there first. Sjokz ends up in a sticky situation as he gets zoned away from the rest of his team, and Splyce find themselves another early kill. 1,000 gold advantage now in their pockets. As Schalke, they don't want to leave with nothing.
They're looking for Xerxe here to go toward his red buff, maybe not expecting them to hide around. Amazing starts it now. Still in, he needs to buff in the brush. Xerxe will see them now.
Yeah, he knows that Amazing's just stolen that one away.
But that play from Schalke, it's kind of again what happens when you're already down in a series. Like, they spent so long actually setting it up. Xerxe had so much time to recall and run all the way to the top, because the first play is just interrupting the ult from Odoamne, and now you're still waiting. Odoamne has actually bought so much time without doing almost anything. And when this happens, you have to then flash away. Like, I think if you can't instantly commit to the tower dive, you have to not actually go for it when the enemy jungler has clearly had enough time to recall.
And now Nisqy, he actually had to take the long way around to get up to the top side of the map, but it was that Predator that helped him get there first. The extra bonus movement speed that he had to quickly join the rest of his team, having that boost of speed enabled him to get there before Nukeduck could, and help turn that fight around. So well played that by Nisqy. Splyce now sitting at 3-1 in the kill score, and 1-0-0 right now for the Veigar.
Yeah, in a pretty good spot. The Kog'Maw ahead as well. A little bit of fisticuffs in the top lane. Earlier we talked about how Kobbe is a great tank shredder on this Kog'Maw, but you have to remember Nisqy's ultimate was changed quite a while ago to do percentage missing health as well. So if you can get Sjokz low, if you can get Amazing low, you're actually going to be able to help out with that tank shred and with that burst off the Veigar.
Looking towards the bottom lane here, see if they can get Kobbe further ahead. Xerxe spent most of his time down here. Did read the play top lane as well, which we gotta credit him for when he went up and defended Odoamne. Good early start from him, and he's really stepped up in this series here. Been a lot of question marks around Xerxe, the player who was actually awarded Jungler of the Split last split here in spring. All-pro jungler.
Got Rookie of the Split the first time he was in the
Did
LCS as well.
Won a lot of different awards here. People have kind of been questioning his performance during the summer split. I think in this series he showed up big time.
Yes, I love the way in which he's playing.
Oh, here we go.
Flash engage.
Flash engage with the Glacial Fissure, teleport coming in behind them as well, and Splyce just have this one. It's by the book by them in the bottom lane. VandeR tries to get away, but Kobbe just needs one more auto attack to get the kill. Nisqy tries to get onto Upset, looking for that ultimate to the back. He's done. VandeR chasing away, but the flash in, but Kobbe is not alive. So VandeR escapes, but Upset goes down.
The aftershock kept VandeR alive long enough, but now Nukeduck has his eyes set on the top lane. This should be a free kill.
Nukeduck has the perfect execution, uses the blade to get it out. Mini stun onto Odo and just waiting for the second proc. Nukeduck gets his first kill of the game. The Akali's on the board.
And they have to get the Rift out as well, because now with Schalke losing on the bottom side, they have to be able to get some big objectives up here. They're not getting a turret, but Amazing should secure the objective, and they got a kill on Akali. The first pick, it was left open in the draft. Okay, they actually do step back. I thought for a moment they were just going to recall to see what was happening, but should get 2 big objectives, so it is a win for Schalke here.
Yes, and it's also really good to help in terms of the mid lane siege as well. The thing about Veigar is once he gets a couple points in his Dark Matter, then he has valuable wave clear, but at the early levels it's not as strong. So Schalke taking down that turret means that moving around the map for Akali will be that much easier, and they can prevent these kind of plays where Splyce just go for the all, then dive. They feel like they've got a free kill onto VandeR, but he plays this well. You can see that with the damage reduction on his ult, he buys a lot of time, and then Upset just gets caught in the cage. He's not able to escape, and there's that point-and-click ulti from Nisqy.
And the Schalke bot lane, like, their job right now, and they're already behind, is don't try and do anything. Like, you need to win through the Akali and try and go up and kill Odoamne. But when they saw Kobbe recall, they're like, we can interrupt him without any vision on bottom side. There's been control wards from Splyce all game long, and yet they step forward to stop a recall, and they instantly get punished forward. Luckily, the rest of Schalke were able to do something on the other side of the map, so it was a win. I guess we can call it a fantastic bait from the Schalke bot lane.
I mean, considering only one of them went down, maybe, but Schalke have been struggling in this early game. They've equalized that gold score. As an organization, this is their first ever playoffs. And when you're competing against a team that has been in the last 5 in a row, you have to wonder how much of the mental game plays into this matchup.
I mean, it's true, and if you look at it and say it's your first time in playoffs, I mean, just making it is a great achievement. But the way they got in here, by losing to H2K and dropping out of that second place where you were straight into the semifinal, that's why there's suddenly so much pressure on them actually doing well against Splyce, the number 6 seed. Xerxe is around.
Nukeduck should be safe here, but like we can say it's good to make it, but Schalke were not a team made to make playoffs. They were a team made to make worlds. And if they don't get there, then I think they will be a little bit disappointed all around. They do still have the gauntlet if they get knocked out here, but across the board, all of these players are looking to play in those world championships.
I mean, what all players want is to be champion of Europe first. Like, it's all well and good going to Worlds, but if you can't even hold up a good performance within your own region, then you're never going to be truly satisfied with your own.
You can become a caster.
You can yeah, that's...
It worked for you, eh?
The footsteps of Deficio.
We don't have that many spots, however, so not everyone can do it.
So, one thing we also have to keep track of is the stacks on Veigar. Remember we talked about scaling for the side of Splyce. If the observers could quickly jump over to Veigar for us, we can see that right now he's sitting on 111 stacks. That is 111 ability power, 278 total, and he is grouping up with his jungler to move towards the bot side of the map to secure Splyce's first tower of the game.
Oh, interrupt that one.
Amazing swing up towards the top side here. Call of the Forge God does come out. Chachi can tank this tower for a long time. Odoamne trying to get the knockups out, but that's enough for Schalke, and they have decided to play towards the top side. They're moving away from this Kog'Maw.
Using the Herald as well to get another turret for themselves. So while Splyce is getting the bot lane turret, they didn't actually get any extra kills. And Schalke are finding ways to get an advantage, and it's around Odoamne. We've seen this before. When he's left on an island, he will go down quite a bit. Should not be able to get the next turret, but get a bit of damage on it. Why not?
Free bit of damage is always helpful. About half the HP of the inhibitor tower there.
Schalke now sitting on a gold lead after what looked like a pretty significant early deficit, dropping a lot of kills towards the bot side. Veigar picking up extra kills as well. Schalke is still looking to be proactive on the map, and their target is Odoamne. He goes in, he gets a good interrupt onto Odoamne. And because it was used mid-channel, I believe that's why it ended up interrupting it, rather than if the pillar came up and then he goes in, then it would destroy the pillar. But ends up finding themselves another kill. Schalke now sitting at a 1,000 gold lead, excuse me, and they have their eyes set on the bot tower, but it's still pretty healthy for the time being.
15 minutes in, that's a little gold lead for Schalke, as you say. We're starting to get first completed items here. Nukeduck on the Hextech Gunblade, Stormrazor for Upstead as well on the other side. Ludens is completed for Nisqy. I think he's sitting about 120 stacks as well on that Veigar passive, and the Blade of the Ruin King now for Kobbe.
So let's see where they actually put the Akali now, because Gunblade is a huge item spike for him, especially at level 11 too, where he now has 2 points in his ultimate, gets that extra bit of damage and burst. So I'm surprised that they're keeping him around the mid lane. He is a strong 1v1. He can generate a lot of pressure off on the side, and I feel like that they should consider moving Kai'Sa there to funnel a little bit more farm into Schalke's AD carry.
Splyce fighting up around this top side river. You can see Nisqy consistently landing those stuns with the Veigar. It's incredibly difficult to play against because of the zone control and because you have a fed AD carry as well. So if you ever get near Splyce and they catch you out, you're just going to get destroyed. Incredibly surprised as well to see that the fact that Xerxe has 0 deaths this series. We asked him to step up. We asked him to be a key member for Splyce, and it looks like he's doing exactly that.
Definitely true. Nukeduck around the mid lane. Would love to not get onto Nisqy, but it's just simply not allowed right now. The range is not in his favor at this point. If he does go to the side lane, he can chase him down, maybe.
Is there an argument for a second item QSS here on Nisqy? Just to be able to keep yourself a little bit more safer to jump on towards the Veigar?
Potentially. Could consider it. 5-man group up mid from the side of Splyce. Look at VandeR looking for an engage.
VandeR gets the engage on towards the sideline. It is on Nisqy. Can they get onto the back? The Force God as well. Splyce just turn it back around. There was no Kai'Sa in this fight at all, and it has cost Schalke dearly. Here we go. Dive in from Nukeduck. Gets VandeR. Kai'Sa gets on the back line as well. And Schalke say, not today, not 3 times in a row. They turn it right back around. They find the fight they need in the mid lane.
A beautiful turnaround from Schalke after what looked like a not so good engage. VandeR starts things off, but you see the disengage power of Splyce's composition, the amount of peel that they have available to them, but then the moment Upset joins, that is when the fight goes in favor of Schalke. They pick up a bunch of kills, they're extending the gold lead to 2k, and Schalke are still in this game.
This replay is brought to you by Acer Predator. Let's have another look at that fight.
Talk about a big moment here. If you're Schalke and you lose this fight, you're already down 2-1 in the series. It might just be game over mentally. But after the initial engage, and Nisqy stays alive, it looks like a Splyce win. But they are using summoners to get out, and they are taking a bunch of damage while chasing towards the turret, and that's when Kai'Sa joins, gets into the backline. Nisqy can't do anything, he drops as well. And this is how you can turn around a series, because now your carries are fed on the side of Schalke.
What a turnaround play from them. Thought perhaps it was too little too late, but Nukeduck with the assassination. Upset there as well, right at the final moment. A 2,000 gold lead now for Schalke.
Now Nukeduck is in the side lane, but again, I want to highlight, if Xerxe is there, the idea around this stun from a Veigar that you can't really get out of, into then the ulti from Xerxe to get Nukeduck in vision is a combination that should kill him every time. I think he's going Banshees in this one. We had the discussion around QSS, but just having Banshees to block the initial stun so you can actually get in range can also be huge for him.
Could also be in part to try and block the Alistar engage, but I think there are a number of tools that you can use to mitigate that. We'll have to wait and see once he completes that Banshees how well it can work out for him. The cage fails to land onto anyone from the side of Splyce. Remember that pick potential is also pretty brutal from the side of Nisqy. Amazing now getting collapsed upon.
Splyce have the vision control around this river as well. With the Infernal Dragon up, you can see that's what they want to play around. Nukeduck's now gone down towards the bottom lane.
Splyce also really have the range advantage around mid. When Kobbe and Nisqy are sitting there, they can get to the wave first. They can actually kill the backline very quickly, and Upset can't step forward and trade with them. So they have to watch Splyce kill the wave and move first into the river, and then look for a play.
Fight onto Nukeduck. Oh, fancy feet from the Akali. Gets himself the safety. Predator pop by Splyce as well. Schalke a little bit split up here. kaSing jumps in, trying to get out amazing. Three-man knock-up from VandeR, but Nukeduck is getting chased out by Odo. It's all on Upset. He's dodging around the side of this fight. Nisqy's down. Upset. That's the fight you need from your franchise, man. The double kill in the 3v5. kaSing should fall at the end of it all as well. This is incredible stuff from Schalke.
And VandeR gets his Alistar, and that combo around the stun from Nisqy into the backline was so huge. kaSing might try and stay alive, but VandeR still chasing him.
But Upset came up massive in that fight.
Support fight!
So much damage. kaSing trying to get out of this situation. I don't know if he can pull it off. He's running fast. He's
so fast. It's the Cloud. It's the best dragon in the game, Deficio.
And the Ghost.
Yes, the Ghost and the Clouds get away. Teleport you!
Teleporting!
Kill him! Kill him! kill him. Upset just wants
He's
the kills.
going for the execute.
Going for the chase. Execute KaSing. No!
It though.
Hit with the Void Seeker. The Plasma has procced. And that's the kill for Upset.
But man, once we get this replay, just look at the setup from Schalke. It's after Splyce are chasing Nukeduck. He dodges the early ulti from Odoamne. And man, that engage from the Alistar was perfect. Around the cage, he gets onto Kobbe. It's a 3-man knockup. He gets both carries, and Upset does not get bursted down. And then he's sitting with full HP. No one can get to him. Everything is falling apart for Splyce.
Both tanks are on the bot side of that fight. Odoamne was nowhere near to provide peel because he was trying to keep Nukeduck out of the fight. Gragas was trying to disengage as well, and all 3 carries were just left to the fierce power that Schalke had.
Smelling like a game 5 right now with how Schalke are playing this one.
Quite possibly, but I don't like to count my chickens before they're hatched, Deficio. Maybe we'll hear Silver Scrapes, maybe we won't. Schalke have a 4,000 gold lead, but they have been up before in this series, and they have thrown away that advantage.
That is a very valid point.
Schalke right now, the Baron is alive. Splyce currently have main vision control up towards the top side of the river. And that is because they can quickly get towards that mid priority. Schalke, for now, just playing on the defensive. They do have decent vision on the backside, but they want to reset. Pick up a couple more, spend a bit of their gold, and then look to set up around this big purple worm.
And we have now already seen how Schalke wins the fights. It's VandeR who can completely ignore what Nisqy is doing, getting to that carry, and it actually sets up the Kai'Sa so well. She's fed now. Hexdrinker's coming in. You need something to protect you from the burst. Still, the fact that Kobbe is the one with a lot of kills on Splyce, that is normally how they can win late game team fights. He's looking at a bunch of tanks in front of him. If he gets the time, he will kill them. Right now, he's not getting it because the fights are very fast.
Looks like he's building up towards Wit's End as well. Will help the Veigar shred through and will help against Nukeduck as well, trying to assassinate that back line. 22 minutes in, there's about a 5,000 gold difference between these two teams. Upset 2.5 completed items with the Hexdrinker there. Nukeduck sitting on the Hextech Gunblade and that Banshees that we talked about. Splyce, on the other hand, need to find a way back.
Yeah, and they can keep stacking MR because there's so much magic damage on Splyce's side. It's really hard for them to shred through it just yet.
Note the positioning of Nukeduck as well, sitting on the top side. This is something he does a lot of. Just setting up the wave to be a massive minion wave that the enemy will have to deal with. Creating this pressure will allow him to then group up with his team, and then it creates this split push effect. But they will have a 5-man unit rather than a 1-3-1 style of pressure.
Guys, get involved at home. Spam in chat if you think Schalke are taking us all the way to Silver Scrapes. It's S04. If you think Splyce are going to take it and go to semi-finals and face up against Fnatic, it's SPY in chat. Get your spam on now, because we'll check in with that result in just a couple of minutes time.
And ladies and gentlemen, we said coming into playoffs, this was the most competitive playoffs we've had in a long time. If this is not evidence for that, I don't know what is. 3 seed versus the 6th seed, and there is a potential game 5 on the cards. Both these teams are showing some fantastic stuff. Many individual members really stepping up and making those clutch plays. And
they're not fully on the hype train yet.
They're not fully sold yet. They still believe in Splyce's ability to come back. Nisqy has had a phenomenal series so far, and he will be one of the big carries in order to find a win for Splyce.
And to be fair, Schalke has not shown us the clean snowball just yet. Last time they had a big advantage, they lost the game.
Look at Chachi, look at Chachi.
Look at the cats, look at the cats!
Here we go, Nature's Grass lands onto one. Teleport coming in straight away, but Upset can't get into the midst of this fight. He jumps onto Nisqy, that's not enough! kaSing stands in his way. Chachi tried to get the final shot in, but he did not. Nukeduck coming in from the bottom side as well here. Amazing knocked up. Will be the first to fall in this fight, and Splyce turn it around on Schalke.
That whole fight starts with a face check into the tank by Nisqy. Curious as to what he was trying to set up right there, because he nearly cost his team the fight, but in the end it was Splyce with a good turnaround. They find themselves a big kill onto Amazing, but Schalke is still generating pressure on the map.
This is the same like in game 2. Splyce are really far behind. Schalke try and force a play around mid. That should work. But Nukeduck wasn't there just in time. Upset after his initial engage ended up stepping to the wolf camp while Amazing was still stuck with the enemy team, and Splyce win the fight and buy more time. Let's see what happens here. Chachi's out of vision.
What does Nisqy do?
He just Predators in.
Yeah, he just runs straight into the face of 2 members of Schalke.
All right, not the greatest engage on his side. He gets it. What happens now? Because after Chachi gets out, Upset is doing wolves. Hit the enemy team. Why are you killing cams?
Yeah, I don't know.
Not the best of decisions from either team there.
Yeah, I think that's the best way to summarize it, Betty. In the end, it was the lesser of two evils.
I mean, he wanted to kill something, I guess, and he's like, look, I get more gold from this.
Yeah, it works.
Don't care about my jungler, he can just die.
Okay, so in terms of win condition, guys, it looks like Schalke are adopting Nukeduck in a side lane. They're letting him push, and then they're trying to find catches in the mid lane. Splyce, we said they wanted to team fight. Is that still the case, or do they need to delay the game?
Oh, so the longer this game goes for Splyce, the better. Late game insurance for Kog'Maw and Veigar, I think, is really, really scary, and I think their tanks are just really beefy the later the game goes. I think, like all assassins, Akali will get harder to play as the game progresses, and I don't think that Nukeduck is the primary win condition. For me, upset is the one that we really need to keep our eyes on, because he is now 5-1-1 on a Kai'Sa. He is 2 levels above Kobbe. This guy is so strong and is sitting on a bunch of healthy items that he needs to be the one that carries them in these late game fights.
He needs to hit the enemy champion.
He needs to hit them, not the jungle.
That's definitely a way to do it, but I actually think scaling on Schalke side is also fantastic. So to me, it's not oh, you have to just wait for late game. You actually have to be able to outplay the big team
of
fights.
course, you are correct.
And that's obviously going to be the big thing here. Like, you are down. It's not the same kind of situation as the Vayne game where you had that clear cut. You know, if we get past this rough stage now, we will just automatically win the late game fights. But obviously, a lot of it is Akali execution.
The thing is, when you look at these late game fights, like, I completely agree with you when it comes to execution is all that matters. But do you not find that the ease of execution is that much easier for Splyce compared to that of Schalke?
My concern is you have 2 carries with no dashers against Maokai ulti, Trundle pillar, Alistar engages.
True.
I don't think there is a clear way for Splyce's backline to always stay safe.
Yes.
Where I think on the side of Schalke, because your AD carry is actually built to jump into the enemy backline and the enemy guys can't escape, you're always getting an opening if you are Schalke.
That's fair.
It is not a guaranteed bound we go in, we just easily win it, but I just feel like the scaling on both sides is pretty insane, and one team is all about killing the enemy backline, and the other team is all about protecting that backline with Kobbe and Nisqy, and if they do that, they will kill the enemy tanks, or maybe even upset when he jumps in. So it's a lot of like instant shotgun effect from Schalke of like how much can you do in the engage time, the following 3-4 seconds.
Yep.
And how much can you do if you're Splyce when you actually survive those 3-4 seconds, and then Kobbe clicks W and he leans back on his chair and he's like, yeah, there we go, I'm just gonna kill everyone now.
I think that's fair.
Right click towards people, let Nisqy try and get that zone control. Odoamne there as well with the ultimate can have a massive impact on the outcome of a team fight. We saw Schalke just take the Cloud Drake. The Baron is up as well for them. Want to see them move forward. Want to see them get some deeper vision in this Splyce jungle if they can, so that they can set up for these mid to late game objectives. You have to remember, we're only 28 minutes into this game. Both these teams much more adept at playing the late game, at slowing the game down. And that seems to be what Schalke are doing. I'm just not sure it's what I want them to do.
Well, yeah, I mean, I like the fact that the series it's been faster in the early to mid game. Like, teams have tried to force more. Question is, can Schalke get a Baron?
Yeah.
Like, that was the big problem in that game too, when they had the same situation we have now. Xerxe is once again on the flank, but Nukeduck is not here yet. Vedius, you already highlighted this multiple times, but he stays in the side lane, gets the full wave pushing, and then he starts leaving. So it does buy a bit of time for Splyce to react. When they see him missing from the top side, they know, okay, now the engage could happen, but Schalke can start the Baron with just a Kai'Sa. She has enough damage to do it.
Question is whether they will be willing to pull that trigger, because they know if they fail at the Baron, that's their playoffs run over. Like, if Splyce get the Baron, they can just push, they can get tower after tower, as we saw them do in that game too. Maybe a little bit of apprehension in the minds of Schalke. Splyce, on the other hand, happy to keep stalling this one out. They're not losing much damage from the top tower. They're not losing much in mid, and they're just getting more items on their Kog'Maw, getting more items on their Veigar, stacking up that passive as well on the Veigar.
This map is being set up beautifully right now from Schalke. You can just see how far up they are towards Splyce's half of the map. Really good vision set up towards the top side.
Here we go.
That's what we wanted to see.
Pushed in bot, and now, once again, they're doing what they've done so many times this series, starting off the Baron with full vision control, Nukeduck and VandeR hanging around the side. But look at how quickly this drops. Can Xerxe even get there in time?
5,000 HP left on it, 4,000 now. Xerxe looking for the steal if he can get it. He's knocked away.
He might get it,
and he doesn't. Upset jumps across the wall as well, and Xerxe is down. Kobbe gets a kill kill on VandeR in response. Upset might want to come down and join this fight because it's a 4v2 in favor of Splyce at the moment, but he doesn't want to be on that back line. Still more damage coming out from Schalke, and Nukeduck's gone up towards the top lane.
Exactly that, Medic. You can see he's already got the Baron buff and is split pushing towards that top side of the map. 4 members of Splyce are just trying to run away from the tanks of Schalke, as Schalke are looking to try and take an inhibitor.
Here we go, Schalke pushing with the inhib in the top lane. Splyce trying to respond if they can, but Schalke have utilized that early game lead that they acquired. Now, Odoamne is here, no ultimate on him yet, but with Nisqy and Kobbe on the way as well, Splyce are going to be able to defend against Schalke.
More importantly, Schalke do not end up wasting more time around Baron without getting it. They actually secured the objective, got a kill on Xerxe, did not get top inhib. Obviously will be one of the next ones they're looking at, but this was such a big problem in game 2. They kept losing fights at this point in the game. Now they're actually winning the fight, getting the Baron as well. Splyce did try and chase here, did not manage to actually land a slow, and therefore have to just step back. Massive cat, by the way, that's some crazy damage.
But this was also just fantastic setup from Schalke. Like, they followed all of the steps, they did everything that they needed to do, and for the most part, that Baron was clean. It was so difficult for Xerxe to get in and steal, and they secured the objective, and now they're on track to taking us to a Game 5. The silver scrapes that every League of Legends esports fan knows and loves is on track as Schalke look to bounce back.
Essence Reaver on Kobbe right now. Very easy for him to activate it, obviously, on the Kog'Maw here, and trying to get reduced cooldown during the duration of it for his W as kind of the thing you're always hoping to have almost all fight long, which is normally impossible. I want to see his uptime, though, with this build.
Nukeduck does have a 2-level advantage over Nisqy now. There's a 2-level advantage between Upset and Kobbe. Nukeduck is already level 18, highest level in the game. That split push has worked out well for him. A 50 CS advantage as Schalke push towards this second inhibitor tower. Upset willing just to step forward, doesn't really care about Kobbe and kaSing and Xerxe. He's only worried about Nisqy or perhaps the flank from Odoamne as well if it does occur. A 10,000 gold lead for Schalke. It's looking very likely that they take us all the way to Game 5.
They've actually got amazing off in the side lane to trade up against Odoamne. Feel like that the Trundle will do better in the 1v1 and create more pressure, but here comes the Ornn.
One engage, perhaps for Splyce, but they do not find what they wanted. Upset flashes away, inhibitor is going to fall in the top lane
Here
as
we go,
well.
that's a combo!
If they can get it, the combo finally comes out. Nukeduck just about escapes, but not for long enough. Inhib does go down. Nukeduck pays for it with his life. Down towards the bottom side. Amazing's pushing on towards the inhibitor tower here as well. Odoamne is going to try and stop him as he can get the chase off. Subjugate does come down, but now Schalke answer in the mid. They say, okay, we'll pull you around the map. kaSing flashes forward for the engagement. No, there's no flash on Upset. Perhaps this is the final moment for Splyce if they find the fight. Chachi jumps on towards Nisqy. Nisqy does get taken out. Upset is the one to secure the kill. It's a 4v3 and VandeR will pay for it with his life, but Schalke get away to safety.
We finally got that combo with the Veigar cage into the ulti from Xerxe that actually managed to get Nukeduck down in time. Sadly for them, when they went for the fight, the actual Fed member is not Nukeduck, it's the AD carry of Schalke.
And we talked about Upset being one of the key members in these late game fights. His positioning to avoid the cage from Nisqy was just what they needed. Now, he did use his flash here, and you'd think that coming into the next fight that could be deadly. But his positioning will be worth keeping track of as we go into the next fight. Now, here is the combo you're talking about, Deficio. Forced a flash out of that situation, Nukeduck was, but he ends up going down regardless. Then we see Splyce going, okay, we have a numbers advantage, we know we can force a fight mid, kaSing just go onto whoever you can, but he engages onto VandeR. He tries to get the knock-up onto Amazing, isn't able to do it. The cage just barely misses due to some good positioning from Upset, and then he repositions with the ulti. He's free to deal all the damage because he knows he has a safe frontline in Vizicsacsi, and that means that it ends up being a 1-for-1 overall, even at a numbers disadvantage.
And we get that fight setup we mentioned earlier where Schalke, the first couple of seconds of the fight where the Kai'Sa can jump in and get to the backline are so key. Because Kobbe right there, he had a long fight. He got a bunch of damage on Chachi. In the end, he also secured a kill, but he's not nuking him down in 2 seconds. He needs a bit of time, and you need your teammates to stay alive while Kobbe is trying to kill the front line of Schalke. That's why this Kai'Sa pick is so huge. And it feels like Upset has to do this in every fight, actually jump in to Nisqy or Kobbe and try and kill them.
I'm looking for the engage up towards the bottom side here, unable to find it. And you can see actually as well, Kobbe has decided to go for the Giant's Belt next. A little bit of extra tankiness for him. trying to keep himself safer if his front line cannot do that for him.
But Splyce is still successfully stalling. We're now approaching the 35-minute mark. Remember that Schalke once again had a massive gold lead much earlier into the game. Like 25 minutes in, Schalke were completely dictating the pace. Baron is now spawning in about a minute and a half. And Splyce are now working on, like, they've completed some of their 4th items. Yes, Nisqy is still pretty far behind, but level 17 on the Veigar, if he lands that one clutch stun, that's going to be monumental in turning these fights in their favor. And at this point in the game, it becomes a battle of the AD carries, but, like, when you look at it, level 18 upset, 3 levels above Kobbe, fully completed item build, you just naturally want to give the edge to Schalke, but you just can't based on how the series has gone.
Yeah, and he has to be able to execute now. We have seen in the past, in this situation, it can be a little bit difficult to know exactly when to pull the trigger. And if you do jump in at the wrong time and just get one shot and die, you lose the entire fight for your team. But they're putting so much faith into him now. It's been a rough series for Upset, so if he's able to actually win this game for Schalke and turn everything around, that's so huge going into the final game. Splyce had a lot of cool answers in the draft. They tried to give the Akali first pick over. They felt like they had a good setup from Nisqy and Xerxe to deal with it. Kobbe got a matchup for himself against the Kai'Sa with the Kog'Maw here, so the draft itself made a lot of sense, but bot lane, he's dead.
Yeah, Schalke finding the fight on towards Odoamne, down towards the bottom side, almost gets away, but he is shut down, and now kaSing is in a very bad spot. Upset just opens up upon him, double kill for him. Nukeduck was fighting in the mid lane as well. He was going to get himself to safety. Inhibitor tower goes down in mid, and Amazing's looking for that inhib as well. Xerxe just chasing on towards Nukeduck, he's all by himself.
And that was the single pick that Schalke needed to just break fully into the base of Splyce. They don't need to wait for the inhibitor because 2 members of Splyce are down. The Nexus is in their eyes, and Schalke want to take us to game 5.
There is the 3rd inhibitor as well. Schalke, for the moment, back away. They don't want to quite go for it yet. The Baron up in just 2 seconds. They can secure that. They can do this by the numbers.
Schalke, you identified it, Medic, working towards that Baron. I don't know if Xerxe can even get close enough for a steal. There is 0 vision on that top side of the map. VandeR is hanging around in the jungle.
Go get it, boy! Oh, he runs away.
He's just going to abandon it.
They're going to lose the Baron. You feel like as soon as you lose this Baron, you just lose the game because you've got 3 inhibitors down, double super minions pushing in every lane. It's pretty much a death knell for Splyce as Schalke secure the Baron.
And it's so fitting that it's looking like a game 5 here, because these 2 teams are so close to each other in level. This is just a play with Odoamne. He's feeling like he can actually kill the wave, buy a bit of time for his team, but when you have no mid lane control, the enemy duo can just move down so quickly. Kai'Sa, of course, even better than the standard AD carry. It's a big moment for Schalke, because they didn't even have to win a big team fight. It was actually just a pick in the side lane. It was the easy way out to get all 3 inhibs.
Definitely the power of Kai'Sa and the power of Schalke. This is much more like the team that went 10-3 in 11-3 in their last 14 games. Much more like the second half of Summer Split Schalke. Much more like the team that almost got a direct spot towards those semi-finals. But as you guys say, this entire series has been very up and down, very back and forth, and I, for one, am very much looking forward to a game 5.
So much pressure for both these teams. Splyce want to do better than last split where they finished in 3rd. They want to have a much easier time making it towards, and Schalke, for their first playoffs since the organization's arrival to the LCS, they want to have a good showing. They want to show that this investment was worth it. This stacked lineup that has had a fantastic second half of the split wants to make it to the finals and also wants that world's appearance.
Ooh, look at the combo. Top lane, maybe. Nukeduck now, he knows.
Got to pull the trigger at some time if you're Splyce, because otherwise Schalke are just going to choke you out of the game. Xerxe there. Nukeduck's just going to be able to get the inhibitor down towards the bottom side. There's a fight as Odoamne forced away. Xerxe down to about half HP though, upset off towards the side. Xerxe somehow survives, so does Odo. The box is put down by Nisqy, a double knockup. Upset still dodging around the side of the fight, but the minions are now on those Nexus towers. Upset! Oh, that's not what you want to do, but he keeps himself alive with the QSS, and now they're on the Nexus towers. Schalke have been able to claw their way back in this game. They've clawed their way back in this series, and they are taking us all the way to game 5.
What a turnaround after getting destroyed in game 3. Everything fell apart for Schalke. This game, rough start again. Early plays from Xerxe to get the bot lane ahead. Kobbe was 2-0. It felt like Splyce were getting in control, but then the plays around topside, they kept happening. Akali got a kill, the Trundle well up there from Amazing, and in the end, Upset ended up joining the fight, and he picked up all because that big one in the mid lane looked like an initial Schalke loss in that fight until Kai'Sa joined.
We talked about it, right? That Upset was going to be the big carry to watch in this game. He was going to be the pivotal deciding factor in the success of this team and taking us to a Game 5. And he lived up to those expectations, finishing with a 9-1-1 scoreline. 22,000 gold. That was 6,000 gold higher than the second person below him. Impressive stuff from Upset, coming up huge when his team needed him the most.
What a series we have, guys. Like, we're going all the way to Game 5. Both teams look incredibly evenly matched. And I look at it and I've seen back and forth in the draft. I've seen back and forth on strategy. I've seen early game. I've seen late game. I've seen scaling. I've seen counter picks. I'm just not sure what is going to happen. But for more on that win from Schalke, let's get at some thoughts from our analysts.
Thank you very much, Medic. Well, hopefully we can shine some light on what it is that went well for Schalke that is different from the rest of the series. And my mind immediately goes to the bottom lane, to pick some bans. We said at the beginning of the previous games, hey, Upset, he hasn't had his best series so far. Maybe don't go to that Ezreal once again. They listened, VandeR.
Exactly.
They banned out Ezreal themselves, maybe because it would have been good in Splyce's comp.
And then they got themselves the Kai'Sa, hyper carry, late game team fighter that absolutely can deal the damage that Schalke was missing in these last few games. And they paired it up with none other than VandeR's Alistar. This champion was banned in the previous 3 games and showed how big of an impact he was able to have alongside his AD carry.
And this is the beauty of a best of 5 and how it unfolds, because these things that you think someone is never going to get their hands on just changes in priority when you come into Game 4. Djoko, when you look at the draft, what sprung out to you from the side of Schalke or Splyce as the best picks for their composition?
I mean, first, Akali was open, so I was quite surprised, and they banned also LeBlanc, which is like the counter, and they went for the Veigar, so I was like, all right, that's something that no one knows, and I was really surprised with that. And obviously they let Alistar for VandeR, and he at the Drake on the team fight of Drake, he just hit the 3-man combo, and from that it just came back, and I was like, all right.
All right, then, Ender, you want to talk about Predator Veigar. Go ahead.
Okay, so first of all, I love Predator Veigar because the biggest thing about this is that Veigar's E is so good as an ability. The AoE CC, the zone control you can get, and specifically the ability to put it on top of Akali Shroud so she can't actually escape. They pair that up with the Gragas as well to make sure you can guarantee some of these stuns into another Predator. But really on Veigar, it allows him to close that gap, find these roams, and center that E around an enemy champion, which is much harder to do if you don't have that insane movement speed.
Yeah, I actually thought this was a great composition coming out of Splyce. You know, it works very well also in conjunction with the Ornn and with the Gragas, but it's always the question with the Veigar of, yes, he's going to be strong, and yes, you've got that stun on the E, but you're still an immobile champion who is quite squishy, right, for most of the game, and I think that becomes harder when the game goes later, especially when Schalke plays the way they did. And this is where I want to get into the next couple of replays. First up, a big team fight for Schalke in the mid lane. Djoko, you already said, well, hey, Akali was up, and this is what she can do.
Yeah, and right here at the start, of course, they actually, I think, get Nukeduck down at the beginning. It was actually amazing. They were able to knock out, but Nisqy is so low, and all the cooldowns were blown on this initial engagement that it left room open. Akali, yes, went in, but Upset was the big performer in a lot of these fights.
Yeah, getting the 2 shutdown especially make him so much strong after that. Like, I think he got like 1K2.
Yeah, he got 2 shutdowns,
yeah, he got
and then got
1K2
so
goals,
much
and yeah, it was over from that.
Yeah, from that, I think we all saw, okay, well, is this the game that Upset's going to pop off? And when you're so fat on Kai'Sa, that is exactly what we expect. I want to get into the next team fight, which is the Upset going crazy at the Infernal Drake. And this is where I think you want to highlight Alistar.
Yeah.
This is why you take that away from Van.
Yeah.
Bye, boy.
It's all those headbutt pull engaged onto multiple members to stack up the Kai'Sa passive, give all the damage when those marks do end up coming through. And it's funny because we thought Akali was the issue, you know, looking at draft, you leave it open, that's a scary thing to do, but it really was the bot lane of Schalke that made that major leap forward after some rough performances the past couple
Djoko,
games.
if you're now in the mind of Upset, you know, you've had a lot of stress coming into this series, you haven't particularly performed too well. How is this game going to unlock him for Game 5?
I mean, right now we saw that Ezreal didn't win a single game, and all these lane picks or mid picks didn't work out, and since Kobbe picked the Vayne and going for the late game AD carries, it's working, so I think he will keep on this path and maybe going for Kai'Sa, I think, because right now it seems pretty strong and you can't really catch it, so yeah, it's a bit tricky.
Yeah, it's a bit cheeky and incredibly strong. Kai'Sa will be something we're looking at in terms of bans of Game 5, and this is where it turns to be difficult because we had games that the early game was won spectacularly for one team and the other, and then they lost. There was a backdoor, there were late game scaling comps, there was a Veigar. Okay, makes sense of it all to me. Must bans for the side of Schalke or Splyce, either. You can pick. What are they?
For Splyce, I want the Alistar out of the equation.
Yes.
Ban that again. I don't think they need to ban Shen. I really didn't think they needed to ban the LeBlanc either. There was room for them to try and target ban away from VandeR, and if VandeR isn't on Alistar, I don't think Upset has as good of a game as he ended up having.
Anything else? Is the Rise, of course, still a must ban?
I don't see maybe Rise. I think Rise, and I think it's everything is kind of fair right now. Like there is not that much broken champ anymore with the new patch. Talia is nerfed, Trundle also. So yeah, I don't know. Right now it seems pretty balanced to me.
So does it go from being the mid lane matchup to now the bottom lane? Are we now looking at Upset to carry versus Kobbe, or is there someone else you guys have in mind?
I'm still looking at this mid lane matchup. I think it really does come down to it in the end. I think this game was an outlier, and Upset really stepped up to the challenge, but ultimately it is Nukeduck versus Nisqy.
Okay, so that means I'm going to give you the opportunity to review your predictions. Now, Djoko, you did say 3-2 in favor of Splyce at the beginning of the day. Would you like to stay with that or change it?
Yeah, I would like to stay with that.
I would stay with that as well if I was you. You could look like an absolute god. Ender, Schalke, 3-1. That's out the window. What do you want to do?
I'm flip-flopping, man. Every single game, I swear, I've been like, wow, Schalke gonna win this one. Splyce win. Splyce win, then Schalke win all of a sudden. So I'm changing my vote up. I'm going with Splyce. I've loved how they've approached all of these drafts for the most part. There have been a few things I'd like to change here and there. And I think that, again, we go back to the usual Xerxe playmaking in the early game around this mid lane and have Nisqy step up to carry in game 5.
For some reason, Schalke has chosen blue side for the last game, which is going against the trend of most of the beginning of the series. But now we've seen that the teams are becoming more comfortable. They have a first pick in mind. It has to be. I'm keeping my faith in Schalke.
I think they try to run it back, right? You win a game of this caliber with that same bot lane. If you can get as close to that composition, you carry so much momentum
first pick is what you're
coming
saying.
into this last game.
We'll see. Incredible amounts of hype. Splyce, nobody thought they could do it, and now they are on match point. But Schalke is also on match point. Can they finally live up to their expectations in our very first playoffs matchup? Splyce and Schalke have fought tooth and nail, and now it all comes down to the deciding game for a spot in Madrid. The battle ends when we come back. Silver Scrapes, let's go, baby.
VandeR with a double knockup, can use the headbutt onto Xerxe, but he stops him in his tracks. And VandeR is not in good shape at all. First blood to Kobbe. In this fight at all, and it has cost Schalke dearly. Here we go! Diving from Nukeduck gets VandeR. Kai'Sa gets on the back line as well. And Schalke say, not today, not 3 times in a row. A little bit split up here. kaSing jumps in, trying to get out amazing. 3-man knockup from VandeR, but Nukeduck is getting chased out by Odo. It's all on Upset. He's dodging around the side of this fight. Nisqy's down. Upset. That's the fight you need. Flashes forward for the engagement. No, there's no flash on Upset. Perhaps this is the final moment for Splyce if they find the fight. Chachi jumps on towards Nisqy. Nisqy does get taken out. Upset is the one to secure the kill. Have been able to claw their way back in this game. They've clawed their way back in this series, and they are taking us all the way to Game 5.